In the past, we used to feel that we were not behind when we were above average. This feeling must be biased. Why? Because nearly 90% of people think that their driving level is above the average level, from a macro perspective. This is obviously impossible, but when it falls on their own heads, they will feel that they are above the average level. Therefore, people's feelings are always biased. Of course, the deeper reason is that we can't perceive the whole world. We can only judge whether we are above average by perceiving the surrounding. Even if a frog in the well is indeed above average in its world, so what? Therefore, today I will repolish the concept of a backwardness, and mainly tell you the following 3 questions. First, what is considered backward? Second, each of us has been able to perceive the whole of the world. Third, our thirst for knowledge has turned into a fear of being left behind. First, let's look at the first question: what exactly is backwardness? In the education system, the passing mark of 50 points unmistakably indicates that after 50% you are behind. However, after we entered the society, some sensitive people may have already discovered that this thing is useless. In fact, after 20% it's all laggards. Because the top 20% of the society actually owns 80% of the world's limited resources. Entering the 21st century, there is a major change that is revealing an even crueler fact, that is, if you don't get it right, after 1%, it will all be behind. It is no exaggeration to say that the mobile internet is equivalent to connecting everyone. Mobile devices are already equivalent to an indispensable organ in everyone's body. When everyone is connected, the world we can perceive is no longer limited to our surroundings, but each of us can already perceive the whole of the world as much as possible. For example, many years ago, a child was admitted to Renmin University from a very small place. He left his hometown and went to Beijing. What does this mean? This means that he disappeared from his original world, and people in his original world can never see him again, and later, he can only be a local legend at most. Later, this young man left the National People's Congress and went to study at Yale in the United States, which means that he disappeared from the world that he experienced when he was studying at the National People's Congress. Later, he graduated from Yale and took charge of the Yale Fund. At this time, he had experienced in China. In that world, he can't see his changes, so he can't see the process of his control of knowledge to change his own destiny. And this is not made up, this is a real thing. This person's surname is Zhang. But now it is different, each of us has been able to perceive the whole of the world as much as possible. By 2013, people started to post moments. The circle of his friends are still there all the time, and the whole world can see it. Many people like Mr. Zhang before will not disappear, they just exist, and their lives are clearly telling others that knowledge is useful and knowledge can be changed. In the past year or two, various knowledge-selling communities have emerged one after another, all of which have done well. Why? Because now you see, the people who are successful, or to put it simply, are people who make a lot of money. They really know a lot of things and methods that you don't know. No wonder I'm not as good as others. When everyone is connected and can access information at a greater level, it feels to some people that they might not be able to keep up with their peers. This thirst for knowledge is what becomes the fear of missing out. In fact, it should be feared. Because there is a terrifying fact, it has been put there for a long time, but most people have not reacted. In the past, after 40% was backward. Now, you think after 20% you are behind. Now, it's actually very likely that 1% of the time will be behind. Of course, there is another more terrifying trend, that is, robots are on the rise, artificial intelligence is on the rise, and most people are walking down the road of becoming more and more useless. Think about it, how many people around you really understand what the 3 words, big data, mean? Then use common sense to speculate. How many people in the entire population really understand probability and statistics, which is the most basic knowledge to understand big data? In order to show it more intuitively, I will give you the calculation. In 2015, the number of domestic college students was about 32 million, but this was only about 1/10 of the school-age population. Think about it again, how many college students really study statistical probability seriously, and then have the ability to apply this basic knowledge in their own life? It is no exaggeration to say that at most 1/10, maybe even less than 1%. This means that, at most, only 1% of young people of the right age have the foundation and the possibility to learn and understand the meaning of big data. The theory of big data is really not that difficult, but it is really not for everyone to learn, because acquiring a large amount of data itself is a very high threshold, so I will multiply it by 1%. In the end, less than 1 in 10,000 people in the crowd, or even less than 1 in 100,000 people, have the ability and opportunity to master big data skills. In front of big data, 9,999 out of 10,000 people are useless, and after 1 in 10,000 people are backward, they are all objects to be studied, guided, and earned. It's brutal, and maybe it makes you anxious, but that anxiety, when used properly, has value. Because of the appropriate and sufficient anxiety, there is a good alternative term called a crisis. People without a sense of crisis are the walking dead who are destined to become useless in the future. We must have a solution to the anxiety caused by the sense of crisis. Because before you know it, you already have at least 2 goals that belong to the future. Sooner or later, you will stop selling your time for life. Sooner or later, you will not fall behind and become the top 20% or even the top 1%. Today, I and you have repolished the concept of a backwardness, and mainly talked about these 3 issues. First, after 1%, it is possible to be behind. Second, each of us can already perceive the whole of the world as much as possible, so we must have a clear understanding of whether we are in a backward state. Third, our thirst for knowledge is actually the fear of falling behind. This is a sense of crisis and anxiety, but it can help us continue to progress and get rid of backwardness. Think and act. 1. Are you in the top 20% of the group around you in any aspect of your ability? If so, what is it? How? 2. Have you ever thought about how you can gradually grow your ability to be in the top 20% of the group around you? Besides making up your mind, what specific methods and steps do you have? 3. After so many weeks of self-training, only a few concepts have been updated. Do you feel that the changes have changed a lot? If so, did you realize that these changes could have happened earlier? Are the costs of these changes low? 4. If you already have some sense of crisis, can you think of a way to get rid of the anxiety? How can I get rid of anxiety? If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumb up and share with your friend. Thank you for watching.